Sorry. I'm in and out. Here I am. Thank you so much for having me this morning for my health angel. I'm very excited to be here, of course, and share with you this morning. And thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Ashley. Great to see everyone from sunny Texas this morning. I think it's going to be in the 60s, high 60s today. So we survived the 2 day storm. It was only 2 days. It was not so bad. So luckily, I'm here. I'm going to share something with you today. It's not so much movement balance, it's more things that I do in my private practice as life coach. And it's one of the first things that I always see with my patients as well. If I am at the rehab facility, that well, I share that with you a lot, that we have to work on anxiety and where these symptoms of anxiety are coming from and where this thinking is coming from. And so today I want to share a little bit with you why we always um, feel, or not always, but why a lot of us, and we have that in times more and sometimes less in life, but why we feel sometimes attacked by the world and we take things personal and we let things get us down, and how to create a setting for a stronger emotional intelligence. They call that emotional balance, right? I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can go. I just kind of made it, an Elian way, as I always call it. I made it a simple format so that maybe you can understand how to share this with others. Maybe you can share this with your kids, and maybe this is something you already know. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up? Yes. Okay. And then sometimes you can share this with your family, or you can see it in others and you go like, ah, I can recognize that because she's doing this and that, and how can I help? So I always like to share that way. So today, emotional balance, how can we find out that we're in a good place? With me, for instance, I tell you where this comes from. In my case, when I was years ago emotional unstable and didn't have a lot of emotional control, I let a lot of things get to me, and I thought it was me. And I had to learn that not everything is about me. Actually, a lot of things are not about me. And I just kind of had to learn that the hard way, because in 2005, I was opening up my own business, my own studio, and my own yoga classes and fitness classes. And I worked so hard to get that studio going in a small town. Now, this is yoga classes in small town Texas. So this is when everybody thinks it's yogurt, and I'm not really getting it. And I was had to bring my whole story of this is good for you, and it's just kind of a fitness sort of thing. And but it went well. And at some point I had 4 or 5 classes a day, and I was working so hard. I was in good shape, way more than now. I have to share. But years ago, and so I was doing all this stuff, and I worked so hard. So I wanted really to get it going. I had a good thing going, but oh my, if one person would come in and say, I would like to try to work out with you and do some classes, and what is your price? And I was cheap in those days as well. Didn't charge a lot for classes. So they would say, well, can I try it? Of course, take a free class. Come on in. So hop in there. And then if they would not come back, I would take that personal. And even if I found out that people had worked out with me for years and all of a sudden would go to the gym next door or a couple of doors up, I would take that personal, and I would not understand, what did I do wrong? What did they not like about my concept, about the things that I do, about my classes? And that would really throw me off for a couple of days. So I had to learn in the first place that it was not all about me. And I had to learn also that instead of throwing like a super drama at that point, that it was just a thing that had maybe nothing to do with me. Years later, when I started helping a lot of people with anxiety, another book came about. That book is called, I didn't mention it in here, that book is called The Four Agreements. And in The Four Agreements, it's a very tiny little book. You can buy it on Amazon. The author is Mr. Ruiz. It's a very tiny little book. If you if you read the four agreements, then the second one is don't take don't take things personal. The first one is um, uh, be impeccable with your word. And number three is um, the second one is don't take anything personal. And number three is, oh yeah, don't make any assumptions. And number four is just do your best. And when I read that book first myself and I started really giving that book away actually to patients and clients, I thought there is so much truth into that. That book is not entirely for everybody. It's also a very shaman kind of book. It has some different views on things, but the truth of the 4 points in the four agreements. The four agreements is the title of that book. Those four little points made so much sense to me when I started to apply that to myself. And of course, it had all to do with my emotional balance and why I was constantly thinking that I knew what other people were thinking. So that is a really big deal because we do that in anxiety intervention a lot. When I work with my clients or when I work with people, what they do a lot is that they're constantly, let's say we're talking about relationship issues, that you're constantly knowing or assuming and making assumptions about what your partner or your loved one or even your parents or your kids are thinking. And because we think that we know what others are thinking, then all of a sudden we are making all those assumptions, and all of a sudden we apply that to ourselves. And then those triggers that we have on the surface, or maybe even very deep, triggers will come up and will lead to not remaining calm and clear headed, but we are going stir crazy. And that is happening when we are taking things personal. We're going to be out of balance emotionally. We're not allowing our experience to experience our feelings, but we're going to suppress them sometimes, or we're just going to explode. And they're all over the place, and you're full of all the time, and you're really feeling out of balance. And that with yoga, sometimes I don't know if we have done that together. But I know you do that with my health angel events a lot, working on your chakras, right? That's one of the things that can help actually with emotional balance. So you already know a lot about that. And it just occurs when we feel whatever comes up, it's still overwhelming us and we just can't handle it. And when I started to work with patients and with people a lot more, really thinking about how can we find balance in everything, we have to first kind of go back. So back to my story of the studio, what happened there is that I was really waiting on everything to fall in place to feel well. So if I was waiting on the world and people and happenings and a full house constantly to be in a good place myself, I was actually just kind of in a waiting mode all the time. I was not really happy unless everything fell in place. And I talk about that a lot as well, right? If you are turning that around and you kind of go through the learning phases of what you can do for yourself for that emotional balance, then you come to a place that, ah, everything is okay, I'm at peace, and somehow it will fall in place. I am doing my best. I'm doing the utmost I can do. I'm trying not to think for others, and then everything will be okay. So if I am leaving those self esteem issues out and those assumptions that I make for other people, and who knows? I mean, our higher power is the only one who can really read our mind, right? We don't even have the ability to read somebody else's mind, but we're always making these assumptions. But if you just do your best and you come in a better place, then that kind of smoothens out and you're really less vulnerable for people to attack you. And then most of the time, that is not even people's intent because I hardly have encountered people that are truly mean. When they get to another gym, that was just because they had a time in their life that they spent with me and now they wanted to change up their routine. Or even maybe so they went to another gym because the deal was cheaper that they could have there. Or maybe there was some new instructors moving into town and I emotionally had to make room for that. There was some competition, but they were good. So maybe people were going to that for a while. So I just had to step off that high horse, it's all about me and what's going on, to understand that people sometimes go elsewhere. And most people just don't want to go to that place, of course, of that emotional imbalance, but we don't know what it really is and how we can recognize it. We just know that we're also don't want to think about it too much, so we suppress it. We're not really going to look inside, we rather suppress. And we have to go inside to see what all happens. Can you all see the letters? I was hoping that you could read it with me. So it's kind of similar to a pressure cooker. I will give you the handout afterwards too. Pressure cookers are an instrument of balance, so they have to keep that pressure in and leave it through a very little toot, right? It has to come out, otherwise it would be all over a kitchen. So that is an instrument of balance. And if you see that pain is part of life and that I get insulted or that people just might not like me, it is part of life. It is part of being a human being. And suffering is something that we don't like. And we don't even have a good, healthy understanding of it. But I can also really, like I said, go back inside and try harder to understand where it comes from. So why do I always relate and depend? And I'm so emotional dependent on other people. So that should be something that is not really a healthy place to be. And in lightning, I call it lightning when everything hits at the same time. There's always a way that it finds its way to the ground. So ultimately, it's gonna boil up if we keep it upside, and it's gonna boil up again, and then it becomes this pressure cooker effect again. So we have to keep our emotions in check or recognize where they're coming from. So one of the things that I want to share with you is that you have to find and become consciously aware of the fact that you are experiencing emotion that you not like. I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling angry, I'm sad, and identify the emotion and put it in words. Just like I said, we don't want to just keep it inside. And if are keeping it inside, it's going to be really big. I'm getting in that in a minute. So we have to identify the emotion. I always say find it and feel it. And it also has to do with what I talk about so much, right? That mind, body, spirit connection. Find it and feel it, and then face it and heal it. So we have to kind of like go like, well, that was not so great for me either, or maybe I didn't react to that so well, or why do I react from a place of anger, or why do I feel that I constantly have to defend myself? So we're going to recognize the emotion and find out where it comes from. So we have to identify these emotions. Regulation skills. We have to find regulation skills to have these emotions put in place. And how much do I talk about that when I say just take a deep breath first before you react? So if somebody is making you feel bad and you just want to go right in there, don't. Right? Take a step back. And there are so many emotion regulation exercises for that. Take a step back and take a couple of deep breaths, or let it sit for a day, or go take a walk, exercise, any other meditate, any other skills that you can find and that we have worked on so many times to kind of feel a little bit more in a soothing place and a little bit in a better place for yourself. And from there on, we can try to react in a nicer way or come back in a more thoughtful way that that has us in the right place. So some of these regulation skills that you can do for yourself are meditation, breathing, easy yoga, listening to music, the muscle relaxation meditation. I love that, right? A body scan, or taking a walk, like I said, reading, singing. I love to sing. I just don't want anybody to hear it. Exercise, or sometimes even visualizing something. And journaling is great. I journaled all my life, and it helped me many times through very stressful times. So um, that is really a good way. And now it helps me still just to kind of write down um, even what the day was and how it looked for me, even kind of be self-reflective, right, on things. There's another thing besides emotion regulation, and that is distress tolerance. And everybody has to learn that. I truly do believe that comes easier when you grow up, and maybe I don't want to ever grow up, but we have to. And if you come into adulthood, that becomes a little easier, right? Just accepting the fact that there is discomfort, there is pain, there is crisis in our life, and we get better coping skills. And coping skills, again, are all the things that you can do for yourself to kind of step away from the situation and reassess it. So how can we look back at what happened? I hope I'm not going too fast for you. So we have to let go of unhelpful thoughts. That's a very good distress tolerance exercise. We have to accept painful feelings. Um, Not fun, but we have to. And we have to, this is a very hard thing for me. We have to set healthy boundaries. I really didn't like that word when I came, especially in the business of counseling other people and being in a counselor setting, um, as a coach, wellness coach, and life coach, because I always thought that, shared it with you from a personal point of view, it might be totally me, but I always felt that healthy boundaries was one of those things that you can hide behind really easy and go like, yeah. That's just, I need my space, I need my time, I need to be away from this. So I always thought that that was actually sort of a hiding mechanism, not really healthy. But now, after years and years of seeing it and teaching it and practicing myself, I get better at it. Just saying no. That's really all about saying no and not trying to do everything for other people all the time and run. I used to take telephone calls from clients at 10 o'clock at night and still not say, hey, this is my space or this is my time. Call me back at 9 o'clock in the morning between 9 and 5. So these are the things that I had to learn for myself as well, because if you overdo it, and I did that so many times because, of course, it came from somewhere. It always comes from the past, right? If you totally want to please all the time, and if you want to help all the time, if you do that too much, it comes from an unhealthy place. And in my case, it came from a place where I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be liked and I wanted to try too hard. And I can't please anybody anyway. And it was not about me. So prioritizing self-care helps there, right? So knowing that you have to have time for self and that you have bring balance in everything. And now when we're coming to that fun balance, I'm going to share in a little bit something with you that we might do together. And what I always do in the beginning of working with somebody, if I work with a client, then I work 2 or 3 months, or sometimes even 6 months, because you can't fix things in one day, right? You just have to kind of take a longer time to fix ourselves. In order to affect behavioral change, we must first become attuned with our emotions. So we have to understand what it is exactly. Can we put it in words? Can we write it down? And how can we then positively affect our thinking? It's always up here. And I always say there's 4 really, really big triggers. One of the triggers, of course, is self-esteem issues. And everybody has that. Everybody, me, everybody else, it just comes back. You get better at it. It just comes back sometimes. So self-esteem is a big trigger. Negative thinking is a big trigger. I used to. So they're not coming to me. My business won't work. It will never work. Oh my gosh, how am I going to keep my head above water? And I will never be able to do that. I will never be able to do that. So all that stuff and all that negative thinking follows up and is kind of interconnected with that self-esteem and with the next one. So now I'm kind of becoming a little angry and a little aggravated. I'm going to keep that inside. And that aggravation kind of nags and nags and nags. I'm not really happy and nobody's coming. I wasn't happy inside. See where I'm going? I was waiting on the world to make me happy. I wasn't happy inside. So nag, nag, nag. And then you're always a little bit angry or aggravated. And then you have to do something to get better. Action is really big. You have to do something better. And I'm going to do it next Monday. And then next Monday I didn't do it, so I'm going to do it next Monday. So now we're talking about a big issue, which is procrastination. And if there's procrastination, then you know that I'm going to be mad at myself. So now I'm negative thinking again. And now I'm having a self-esteem issue again. So all these things are so connected with each other that they are the underlying cause of our negative reactions after that. So this is what I want to do with you. It's a fun exercise for today. So maybe if you have a pen and a piece of paper, I'm going to talk you through it because we're going to hit a little bit on all those points. I love, love, love this exercise. It's very fun. If you're thinking about the wheel of life, I call this the wheel of life. I call this my pizza pie. Draw a circle. Mine are usually not so good. I do this a lot. And I'm going to just write down, I'm going to make those little pieces of pie, sometimes 6, sometimes 7, that are supposed to be fairly equal. If I do it on a napkin at Starbucks, they're not always so equal, but you get the point. You want to give every slice of your pizza, you want to give that a name, and you want to give that an element of life, right? An element of a balanced life. And you probably know where I'm going, but this is so fun. And this is so fun to do with everybody, even if you are in a setting, in a civic setting with some people, or in a social setting, or you see it with the kids. It's a fun thing to do. So these words, career, has nothing to do with the next one, financial. It's a piece of pie. Spiritual is a piece of pie. The physical, spiritual or religion, right? Whatever you want to write down there. And with career, you can write down career or job or life purpose, right? A path that you have to be on. The physical would be health and wellness and healthy eating with Trisha and all that good stuff. Intellectual, are we feeding ourselves with knowledge? Knowledge is power. Are we reading? Are we taking the time to kind of look into things like today? Are we being honest with ourselves and taking the time to go inside? Family, sometimes I call that family, relationships, friends, interactions, communication. That goes all in your piece of pie that is called family. And then the last piece of pie is the social. Social, and that has to do with, are you able to communicate well? So in these circles, your pieces of pie, I want you to put a little number. If I was with you, I would give you colors and make you color it. But you're going to give your career. I'm going to share with you today. Let's say my career is right now in a pretty up place, very busy, very crazy, but very exciting. So I'm going to give that an 8. I'm not giving myself a lot of 9s and 10s, because then we go all the way back to Benjamin Shaw, and his laws. Then we have to go like, well, if everything's perfect, right? You don't want a 5-bedroom house when you're 20, because where are you going to live when you're 50? What are you going to wish for? So everything is always a 9 or a 10, not a 9 or a 10 in my eyes, because then there's just really nothing to wish for. But let me give myself an 8 there. My financial picture can be better since my son's in college and he always takes all my money with him. Not really true, but you know the picture. So I just keep going there. I would like to give it a 6 or a 7, pretty healthy. Spiritual, religious, yes, but maybe I can do even better as a Christian. Or maybe if you are not thinking religious and you don't have a nomination, or you are a spiritual person, maybe you can read more on the topic. Maybe you can join a group to talk about refuge recovery, which I tell my patients a lot, that it's an addiction recovery group that they can go to with a Buddhism background, with a Buddhism thought process behind it. If we're going to the physical, are you getting in the gym enough? Are you walking? Are you trying to do your exercises? Are you really giving it A little effort. Are you thinking about your health? So many times we are not proactive when it comes to our health. I say that many times. Are we really doing the walk, at least a 30 minutes walk a day, so that we can get that little exercise routine in? And I always say that's not with the dog, right? That is the go after it walk. So are we doing and taking care of our physical health? That has to do with our body. It has to do with our diet. Are we eating well? Are we checking enough? Are we going to the doctor regularly to check on our overall health? Intellectual has to do with feeding yourself. If people are taking a lot from us and we feel that we are emotionally overwhelmed, sometimes we just give and give and give and give. And we need time to feed ourselves. And that might be also, I call it many times self-care, right? Or self-help. It also has to do with me time. It has to do with a couple of weekends vacation. It has to do maybe with sitting and staring and meditation and mindfulness. So that intellectual, spiritual of us has to be fed as well. And then we're talking about the last two. It could be one if you want to. Family, are we doing enough communication wise to take care of our loved ones? Do we need to go back to a little um, self reflection? I haven't checked on so and so for a long time. I'm so overdue for a couple of calls. Why don't I write a letter? Things that are really, really precious to us and that we need to take care of. Are we enough into good communication with our family? Are we telling everybody what we are thinking and what we need instead of depending again on their approval for you to be healthy and happy? And then the last one, social, that can go with your family, but are you getting out? Very important to get out. Are you doing a lot of things for yourself that get you out of the door? And are you social equipped to be with other people? We need others. These are a few things that come back in your wheel of life. And if you're thinking about this being the wheel of your car, and you have an 8 here and a 6 there and a 5 here and a 3 there and a 2, then you know you can't drive because your wheel is not deflated equally. Your wheel is inflated and we're just going to wobble and bobble. And I do this a lot because I am such a workaholic that I do forget the self-care sometimes. I do forget the time, just the time to do nothing, just taking weekends away and having vacations and planning that kind of stuff. I get better at it. I like to be a workaholic, but it's also very important that I take enough time for the other ones. And one of them, physical is good for me, family is good for me, but I could do definitely better sometimes from just taking time away from everything, right? And just kind of connecting with completely different things in life. So I hope that you enjoy this little exercise and that you do it just kind of like a little self-reflection, analyzing. It seems so simple, but if those things are all not finding their way in your balanced life, this is about a balanced life, then we are emotionally, mind, body, spirit disconnected. And from there, we can go in that tremendous emotional imbalance. We can go into this feeling of, wow, nobody likes me, and negative thinking, I'm taking things personal. So going back there, you don't want to go there. You want your happiness to come from just being okay. And just know your worth. That has a lot to do with it, right? Self-esteem, know your worth. It has a lot to do with it. And I love that part of not assuming. Sometimes you have um, this agreement with somebody, and you're assuming all the stuff that they're thinking, and you're so busy thinking for somebody else that you don't even have the time to think about the fact that you maybe came back the wrong way, or your communication skills were not that bright there, or you are not being able to say it exactly like you mean it. So that is so important. Don't think for others and jumping to conclusions, right? That is so big. So let it go and get busy with it. and kind of do this kind of fun stuff for self-reflection once in a while. I hope you will. I really hope you will. So always reach out. This information will make its way to you. Or watch me on Saturdays. I have a great little telly show on Saturdays on Roku or on the Win Win Women channel. I gave that to you. Done that for a couple of months. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you watch. And then I'm so ready for questions and sharing things with you and more about this crazy stuff. Ew, talk therapy today. So it was not too complicated, I hope. And I hope you get a little bit of a takeaway in the sense of I definitely, oh, thank you so much for putting that book up there. Michael Rue is absolutely Deepak Frida. Yes, I love Deepak. Got introduced to Deepak in 1999. And I also, at that point, well, I will share with you, that was the year that I also got introduced to positive thinking. And I did a lot of NLP, a lot of neuro-linguistic programming therapy for that, in a sense of trying to find out if your words, your mind is everything, right? We're just thinking everything up. If your words are always negative, if your thinking is always like, I won't, I cannot, I have not, I can't. And if you think that all the time, then we can actually train ourselves to think a little bit different. That was a long time ago, so I don't remember much from it, but I always use the exercise. If you want to get rid of your negative words, find them the minute you're thinking about it, and then immediately find another positive word to replace it with. That's so good, right? And smile all the time. That helps for yourself as well. So, oh, thank you so much. Wonderful circle. Yes, thank you so much, Rita. I just love it. I mean, please, I don't know if it's time to go jump back out with friends, but maybe you can do this on your Zoom meetings. But grab a napkin and do the circle with everybody. It's so fun. It's out there. A lot of you might just know it, but we don't sit down and self-reflect enough. And I know very much about that.
So Archana had a question, but it's can't really make it out. How to detach emotions if the family meditation does not help? I guess Archana, are you there? If you want to ad lib into that, it didn't come across.
Yeah.
I was trying to kind of see if you want to unmute Archana.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, just to how to detach emotions? I think from
on Facebook, I had an approach from a gentleman, and he was insisting that I try to be good friends first. Then he tried to tell me that he's in love with me, and that relationship lasted for over 6 months. And then suddenly he took himself off of WhatsApp and Facebook, and I cannot find him. And I've been having difficult time to detach myself emotionally from him. I've been doing a lot of meditation and a lot of praying, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it does not help. So is there any guidance or any thoughts you can share with me on that?
Honey, if you were with me, the very first thing that I would say is that you have been hurt very much in a very, very inappropriate way. And I would immediately tell you to allow yourself to be very, very, very sad and to have that pain, because this is another thing why we are not really wanting to face the pain. So now we're going to just kind of like put it away. And if you are going through that pain, then I think, allow yourself to have that and share. This is a difficult thing to share, because maybe you feel that if you share that, people go, well, duh, shouldn't have been on a chat with somebody that far away, or duh, you shouldn't have believed him. But of course, I would too. Everybody would love to get attention, would love to be loved. who likes to hear nice things. We all like to hear compliments. And people do bad things, so they hurt you. I'm not even sure if this gentleman was out to hurt you, but it sounds like somebody who just doesn't want to be there anymore at that point. Now, the easier thing for you to take to do is to take that personally and think, oh, it was me. It was not. It was not you. It was a bad action, a very bad, intentional or not, action from somebody who does not need to be with you, who you do not need to be with that person. He does not deserve you. And it's so easy for everybody to say, yes, you are amazing, and yes, you are better than that, and keep it going, and just, don't feel personally attacked by it, and don't take it personally. That's an easy way to say, and I know that. That's why I'm so glad that you're sharing that. Allow yourself to have that grief and pain, and yeah, be hurt. But don't go back. Don't go back into finding out why, or just assume it wasn't you. It's not a nice person that does not need to be in your life and who doesn't deserve you. But if and somebody breaks off that way, my gosh, where are our morals, right? I don't understand all of that anyway. I think it's a very bad way of communication. And maybe something bad happens. You don't want to find out. You want to stay in your place of self-esteem. You want to do self-esteem things for yourself. You want to surround yourself with people only that are on your balcony. I do not allow myself to surround myself with people that for any reason, it's not the right reason, for any reason don't accept me the way I am. So I only want to have people at this time in my life on my balcony that applaud me. Yay, Elian, you're trying, you're working hard, good job, good girl, cute, cute, cute. Right? So that kind of stuff. You need to surround yourself with people that give you a lot of love and a lot of compliments. And if you're in that place, just get busy. Beside that, just get busy. I know it's hard to just meditate over it. Even sometimes you don't want to overthink it. So don't go meditate, because that takes us to that place that we're overthinking. Just do. Just do.
Yeah.
Does that make
agree.
sense?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My thoughts and prayers with you, honey.
Yeah, and sometimes rejection is our best protection, it's
Nice, absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And James had added in that he's done the balance wheel on smartrecovery.com. Their theory is to get better balance in this session. If career is 9 and family is 2, you need to work on the 2. It's very hard to get a perfect balance, but to focus on where you can improve. This was a great webinar and very useful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. How often do you think that we should do the circle? I do it just here and there. A healthy thing is just to reflect once in a while when you have a moment. And the hardest thing is to be really, really honest with yourself. Here I am with my napkin at Starbucks, and I'm just looking at it and I'm going like, I think I'm good, with God. What, Elian? You weren't in church for 4 weeks in a row. What's going on with you? That's not honest. See what I mean? So you kind of have to go back to that place where you think, okay, honest. How many days have I been in gratitude with my Bible only? That kind of stuff. So sometimes we have to just be a little bit more honest and just kind of sit there and think, yes, there are people that are on my to-do list and I have to call them, and I know I have. And why don't I do it? Just call them up. That kind of stuff. So I'm far from perfect. So very unbalanced wheel that I have to blow up all the time and inflate. But it's so nice to be in a place that you can actually do that reflection. And when you didn't know about it, you don't do that reflection unless somebody is making it, a little points it out to you. I was in those days, in my former crazy, I always said, well, but I didn't know that most of my actions were just coming from self-esteem issues, because I wanted to be seen in lights. So I was reaching out for the wrong reasons, because I was reaching out to get acceptance from the world instead of loving yourself. And this spring my book comes out. Hopefully next month I'll read all about my bio. But that is it's a little life coaching book with crazy stories about Elian. But it's that kind of thing where if you don't reflect and nobody points it out to you, you can just derail. I can hide myself, be behind not wanting to talk, go completely off the rails by being very busy and never have time for nothing. And everybody knows how hard it is to do nothing. Just nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right? And that's just what I got. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad to get your responses. I'm so grateful for your response. Yeah, any other questions, really? Ask me anything. It's all out there now.
Does
It's all out
anybody have
there.
any, does anyone want to speak or ask any questions to Elian? Or add anything, comments? Okay, so Sandy, please offer suggestions for old internal responses that are often negative, that are very negative.
Old responses, they are grinded, they are there, they are that system that we automatically react to because we haven't known any better and we have always done it. The fun thing is that we have always done certain things. We are conditioned in so many ways. And for that reason, we think that we can change. For that reason, we think that our mind is set. And that because we've always done it this way, that is probably the way to go. And I really can tell you that if you are starting to work, it takes a long time, but we can change any form of thinking. We can change anything that is in our mind because our mind is a muscle. It's just a muscle. You can work it and 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 make it a little stronger, and flex and stretch it, and just open it up to exercise that makes you think different about a certain situation. And a couple of months ago, remember in December, we talked about that when it comes to anxiety, that we're always in the same pattern. When it comes to our big Christmas gathering with the whole family, we always, not always, but most of the time, we go in with that mindset, oh, I know what's coming. I know what's coming with my sister-in-law, really. I know, we're not going to have this whole weekend with her. And so when you're going there, you already preset your thinking to a negative expectation and outcome. And you've always done that. And yes, probably that thinking comes from a place where it was always like that. So the experiences previously were that you were not having a good relationship, but we didn't reflect on our own actions. We didn't reflect on maybe I did something that never gave her an open, and maybe my demeanor is always so that maybe I'm intimidating, or maybe I'm always the one that knows better. Or maybe I'm always the one that is approaching her with a cold shoulder. Or maybe I am still mad and upset about this one little incident that happened 10 years ago. See where it goes? So we're so set on having those thoughts already being there that we think we cannot be flexible enough. Most of the time, we can be the one to change it. And then if we change our action pattern, and we get a little bit with a different approach out there, we can do a lot of change in behavioral patterns with loved ones and family. And you know how we always say that that's kind of like a preset thing. It's a family dynamic. All family dynamics can change. And so for that matter, your thinking can change. And it takes time. And it takes a lot of exercise routine. That's why I always say to my clients, if you would reach out to me, I would love to have you as a client for a life coaching, but it doesn't go in one. I need 2 or 3 months with you to really practice and see and follow up if you are changing some things that you are thinking about. There's a lot of work. So for that matter, we just have to kind of get into exercise or behavioral patterns. Did I give you the answer?
Is that good, Sandy? Did that help a little bit? She's on mute, but I saw that Eva wrote, if you always do what you have always done, you will always get what you have always got.
Yeah. And on top of that, I say always, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't
Doesn't
change
change
you.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you have to kind of do the work. And again, with everything, mind, body, spirit, with everything, we don't want to do the work sometimes because it's easier to find a way out in our average behavioral patterns. But everything is work. I work to try to get to that point where I'm honest, where I'm open, where I'm easier going, where I can see where I'm making a mistake or where I can actually recognize that something comes out of a pattern that was always there. That's the first thing. That's all you have to do is recognize it. Find it. Remember, find it, feel it, recognize it, and try to understand it. It might be just a long time trauma. It might be something that your mom always did. It might be something that was totally expected. And anything that we do that is related to a pattern of expectation is usually not having an outcome that we like. In other words, if we are constantly living our life in expectations of what others think that we should do, then ultimately that's not going to lead to our internal happiness, or I rather call that just being at peace. Yeah, that happy is here and there and everywhere, and happy can be taken away, right? And it's related to things and places and events and circumstances. But my inner peace is just knowing that I'm doing my best, I'm doing the work, I'm taking the time to find and recognize patterns that might not have served me so well in the past, so that I didn't get that conversation that I wanted to have with her actually at that. If you change, so this is a good question. What do you suggest for somebody who is very close in their life, how to help change that? If they're really, really close, if they're really, really, you can't. And just like above, it says a lot of people are more emotional and passionate than others, believe me. That's also a little bit of a genetic thing. But if you have people that are very close and they're not opening up, if you don't want to, if they don't want to, they're not going to. The best thing that you can do for you or for somebody else who's close to you, and you really want to find that place where you can have that conversation and you can both be open. If that's really difficult, set the example. The only thing that you can do to change others, which you can't, is you be the example. You be the light. You know what you're doing, and you see the effects of that, and you see the reactions of others, so they see it as well. Now, if somebody chooses to stay into that, well, I don't care anymore, then that's actually, it's kind of an insult sometimes in a relationship, right? It might be an insult to you because you're this open light of good conversation and people don't want to go there. And sometimes that's almost a little bit of an insult, like, hey, but if you don't try to keep saying, like, I would love to have this with you and find out what you're thinking. And if you don't want to go there, then I'll leave you alone. We have to respect somebody that doesn't want to go there. Can't push them.
And Frida had wrote, why is it that some people are more emotional than others? I was told that I'm not emotional, that I'm passionate. Is there a difference?
Yeah, just like I just said, Frida, thank you for asking that question as well. Thanks everybody for asking questions. I don't know. My thought is that people are different, definitely genetic as well. So I am very passionate. People get crazy tired of me. I'm passionate about the things that I do. I love it, I love it, I love it. But some others just like, really, they think it's a little bit over the top. I'm just very passionate about it. And other people would share that the same information in a totally different way because they're genetically just different, of a different make, right? So a lot of things is just the way you are. Now, for instance, Jim is very romantic. I am not. So we're all just kind of different when it comes to our whole makeup. And it's not that you can't change your thoughts and be constantly try to be a better person and go forward. It's in your thinking, but you know, sometimes people are just kind of like different in the way they process. Even if you do the work, the process is different. You and me are different in our delivery of things. I
And
hope that helps a little bit.
yeah, and Frida Dickinson wrote in that your honesty is what makes you such an effective presenter. Praise God for angels like you. So kudos
Thank
to you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all, because I love you so much. It's so wonderful always to share with you. And yeah, I hope it was fun today to share the wheel with you as well, because there's so much, you know, so much fun things there, that we can do for ourselves and others. And hopefully you all see yourself as we know it all already, but a lot of people around us might hear you share this, right? Or just a fun thing to do over the Christmas table.
Yeah. Are there any other questions or comments for Elian before we tell you when she's coming on next and her next presentation? Oh, Barbara Waldron, go ahead if you want to unmute. Hold on, we got to unmute. If you want to unmute, yep. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I like the wheels very much. And I can see myself doing this with my relatives, you know. I was wondering though that I have a lot of 6, 7s, and 1 8. I'm wondering, am I too cocky, or is that okay? Or, you know, then I'm looking at it, I said, well, maybe I could change something to a 5, but no, that's how I feel. So I just want to get your feedback on that, really.
I love that, Barbara. I love that. You're okay. You are okay. I mean, you can totally be in a really good place if you feel that your wheel is doing pretty well, and you know you got a couple of things to work on. But that means that you, in total, that the things that you are doing are you're interacting with friends and family. Your communication skills are in the right place. You take good care of yourself. You eat well. You take care of your health. You know, you're doing the things that you take time for yourself. You take time to study, read, or empower yourself with more knowledge. It's all about that. And if you're having all that in place, yay! I want to be with you.
Oh,
I
thank
want to be
you.
with
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong in giving yourself a compliment and a yay and a yay and a yay and hey, to be in a really good place in life. And yes, absolutely, because that's what we're striving for. Um, and that's why it's so nice to come to that. You know, you leave a little bit open, just like I said, you leave a little bit for perfection. Because if you are
Right,
perfect, you know, I want to be imperfectly perfect, right? We don't want to be perfect. But
right.
so you leave a little bit open to improve. But no, I love that you shared that. We don't have to be off at all. At all. If we're at peace and we're in a good place, yay, absolutely.